Yeah, you can set the first, second one, whatever you're comfortable with. All right, we are going to roll right into our next media availability. We are now joined by Austin Hill, driver of the number 21 Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet. If you have a question for Austin, please raise your hand and we will get a mic over to you. We will start right over here with Cameron.
Cameron Richardson, NASCAR.com. Austin, to join a list that includes the names of Tony Stewart, Dale Jr., and Dale Sr. as winning consecutive February Daytona races, just what does that mean to you and just your prowess on super speedways?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a huge accomplishment, obviously. So many things have to go right when you win these super speedway races. Even here at Atlanta this weekend, like, everything's got to go right. I mean, you got to have a little luck on your side. You know, there's things that happen on the racetrack that are out of your control. So just trying to put yourself in the right place at the right time, and all the adversity that we had fought last week to still get the job done was huge. And, you know, I kept hearing it all weekend long leading up to the races. Oh, three-peat. And, you know, I kind of just went into the race weekend with the mindset of, you know, I'm just going to do my job, try to do everything right. You don't know if you're going to end up in the big wreck or not, even if it's not your fault. And just try to be there at the end and you know, kind of pounce when it matters, right? So it's a really cool experience to be a part of, or a group to be a part of, rather. You know, to win 3 in a row like we've done for the opening season is huge. And I don't even know if it's really fully set in yet still, like what we accomplished. You know, we're locked into the playoffs going into 2024 playoff season already, just like we've done the last 2 years. So, you know, it just kind of takes that weight off your shoulders where you're not having to really fight the points battle and all that, and making sure that you're in once we get kind of into the summer months and all. So, but it is just a very cool experience, elite group to be a part of, like you were saying. But I have a lot of accolades that I got to still get to even get close to those two guys.
Do we have any other questions for Austin? Right back there.
Hey, Austin. Anthony Rhodes with the Clayton News Daily and Henry Herald. When you look back when you were racing here as a kid in Legends, what are some of the most important things you learned about racing, and how does that apply to now?
Well, I've always really said this to a lot of people, that I always thought that, you know, driving a legend car was big on teaching me car control. Back when I ran legend cars, the tires were a little different than how they are today. You had a different engine package that had a lot of torque, and so, like, you just couldn't, like, hammer the throttle down. You had to kind of roll into the throttle, be easy, keep the rear tires underneath you. So I learned a lot of how to drive a race car, how to save tires, that type of thing, and not burn the rear tires off of it from driving a legend car here at Atlanta on the little quarter-mile racetrack. So, yeah, I mean, it's really cool to see the transition and making it to the level that I've made it, and now I'm on the big track in Atlanta. And I think that all the races that I've ran here in the Bandoleros and legend cars were big parts and big reasons of why we've had success once I moved up through the rankings. Because like I said before, I've always thought that the legend cars are probably one of the hardest things to drive, and for me, that I've drove in the past, and it's taught me a lot about car control.
We'll go right back there.
Hey, Austin. Doug Turnbull for WSB Radio in Atlanta here, and for PRN. Been asking different drivers this. Now we're in, I guess it's the 5th Xfinity race on the super speedway layout here at AMS, and that's been the only layout you've known in the Xfinity car, although you ran it in the truck in the old layout. How much wear have you seen in the track, and do you think that's your driving style is gonna be any different than what you have done the last 2 years here?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So, just from the first year, the 2 races we ran, and then transitioning to last year, the 2 races we ran, there was a huge transition on the grip in the racetrack. I mean, we lost a good amount of grip. We went from the first time we ever showed up here with like full-blown trim out, not worried about handling, just like you would kind of at Daytona. You don't really worry too much about the handling side of it. And transition that to last year, we kind of had to mix in a little bit of speed and handling with our Bennett Chevrolet. So I think that's going to be even more so this year. I think each year that goes by in the track, as it ages, we're going to have to focus more on having the handle in our car than it is just having, a really fast car and go sit on the pole or whatever, the case may be. I think that someone that can have a car that's fast but also handles really well is going to be the one that at the end of this thing gets the job done. So, yeah, I expect this weekend, even though with the cooler temperatures, little separation throughout the pack, that type of thing. And you're just going to have a car that can maneuver and can run the bottom lane, middle, top, all that. Whereas before, back in 22 when we did this for the first time, none of that really mattered. Like it was all about, trimming the car out and the speed. Now you got to really think about the adjustments and all that you're going to make throughout the race to make it better.
All right, we'll go to Reed Spencer and then Chris Knight.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. Austin, I saw a comment from you about how the window slits have sort of changed the way the car feels. Can you explain how that's affected the handling?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have thought that I would have noticed much of a difference at Daytona, but I noticed, me personally, I noticed a huge difference in just the handle of our car. It seemed like it made our entry into the corner a little tighter than what we've had in years prior. But then it also made it to where you would lose a little bit of the front end more. You had to keep the front end kind of the headlight out, so is what we call it, keeping headlight out, left side or right side. And keeping some air on the nose I thought was crucial. There was a few moments that I had during the race where, whether I was in the top lane, middle lane, whatever it was, if I started exiting the corner and I was directly behind somebody and I didn't have much of a headlight out, I would get these big moments where I'd get really tight on exit and then next thing you know, like get really loose all of a sudden, where I have not really had that issue in years prior at Daytona. So I kind of had to change my driving style just a little bit and kind of reposition the race car. And I think a lot of that's going to happen this weekend in Atlanta. I mean, you're not going to be able to run directly behind somebody. You're going to have to be offset to get clean air on the nose. And I think it's going to be more crucial now when you're exiting the corner to make sure you have clean air on the nose, because if not, you're going to kind of lose the front end, because with those slots that we have in the glass, it put a lot of rear downforce in the car and took a little bit of front downforce away.
Let's go to Chris Knight.
Chris Knight, Kitchens.com. Austin, what your thoughts on going back to Las Vegas next week as a defending Xfinity Series race winner?
Yeah, I've always had just some good fortune at Las Vegas. I've always loved going to that racetrack. When I ran the trucks, had success there, and then now Xfinity. Statistically, I've just always ran really well there. So I expect big things when we go there. I think that we're going to have a Chevrolet capable enough of running up front, hopefully, and I think that we're going to have a shot at it. So, yeah, these first 3 or so races starting the season off is kind of our cup of tea right now. So hopefully we can start, the year off. We've already started off really well, but hopefully we can keep the momentum going.
Let's go to Dustin Long.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Austin, with how much you said that the track has changed, does there get to be a point where you guys need practice here? I mean, I know you always want it, but there's a difference. But is there a point where you feel like you need it or the series needs it, or that's just something that's not going to happen, don't worry about it?
I thought that we needed it this weekend, especially with the change with the back glass. just because, I mean, it was the 2 races that we ran here last year, both of them for the most part was, you know, hard to get going. There was a lot of wrecks involved, and I think the reason you saw a lot of wrecks is everyone's trying to trim their car out as much as they can and get the speed because they're trying to, you know, get a really good starting position, or they're trying to, maybe there's a guy that's trying to make it into the race because there's more than 38 cars here. So it kind of just puts you a little bit in a box because you got to be trimmed out and go run that lap time. But then you get in the race and the car doesn't drive good. So I think that having like a 20-minute, 20-minute practice here for just this weekend would have been great, just because of what we saw the last 2 races here at Atlanta with the wrecks that happened early in the race, and with the slots that we have that are different. We have no idea what the car is going to drive like for this weekend. You know, we got a little bit of an idea how Daytona was, but this track is so much different than Daytona is. So, you know, who knows? We might drive off in the corner and everybody be super loose, or we might be super tight, or whatever the case may be. But I think at a place like Atlanta, just having just a short little 15, 20-minute practice would go a long way.
Was that a conversation you ever had with NASCAR?
No, I never personally had any conversation with NASCAR, and I'm not sure if anyone else did or not, but I think it's a conversation to be had.
Is that something that you feel like, I mean, I know there's some veterans, but you're going into that role as well. Is that something where you need to speak up a little bit more?
Yeah, I think it's something that, you know, a few of us that have been in the Xfinity Series for a few years now, we could kind of put our heads together and kind of go to, you know, Wayne Alton or whoever we need to go to about it and request it, just because, like I said, I mean, what we saw last year, when I went back and was watching film, I'm like, man, I'm like fast forwarding it like every two seconds. Like, man, you know, it just took a while to get going. It seemed like stage 1 was just wreck after wreck after wreck. So I think that's something that, yeah, I think, you know, somebody like, you know, myself, Justin Allgaier, Parker Kligerman, there's a few guys that we could kind of get together and maybe go talk to them about it and see if there's something that we could do maybe later in the year.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Any final questions? All right, thanks for the time and good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thank you.